Captain Jake Morrison stared at the massive display screen on the bridge of the Earth Defense Ship Ranger. Hundreds of alien vessels floated in perfect formation around the solar system. Each ship looked different from the others, but they all shared one purpose. They were here to trap humanity inside their own home. The Galactic Council had spent 3 long years talking with Earth's leaders. At first, the meeting seemed promising. The aliens spoke of peace and unity among the stars. They showed humans amazing technology that could solve every problem on Earth, clean energy that would last forever, medicine that could cure any disease, farming methods that could feed billions without harming the planet. But there was always a catch. The Council demanded that humans give up their weapons. All of them. Every gun, every tank, every warship had to be destroyed. Military research had to stop completely. Even police forces would need to be disbanded. The aliens claimed this was how all civilized species lived. Admiral Lisa Brooks walked across the bridge to stand beside Morrison. She held a small device that displayed the final message from the Zephyrian ambassador. The blue-skinned alien had delivered the news with what humans might mistake for sadness. But Morrison knew better. The aliens were not sad. They were afraid. The message was simple and clear. Earth would be quarantined. No human ship could leave the solar system. No alien technology would be shared with humanity. No trade would be allowed. Earth would remain isolated until humans proved they could abandon their violent ways. The Council estimated this might take 1,000 years or more. Dr. Kevin Walsh stood at his workstation reviewing the data his team had collected during the negotiations. The aliens thought they were clever. They believed humans were just another primitive species that could be controlled and shaped. But Walsh had been studying the Council races for 3 years. He discovered something that worried him greatly. Every single Council species had followed the same pattern. They developed space travel and basic technology. They fought wars among themselves until they nearly destroyed their own worlds. Then they joined the Council and agreed to stop all military development. They accepted peace in exchange for stagnation. The problem was that none of these species had ever faced a real threat. They lived in a galaxy where the strongest military force belonged to the Corvani. The Corvani had powerful ships, but their weapons were old and their tactics were simple. They relied on fear and overwhelming numbers rather than skill or innovation. Colonel Amy Parker called an emergency meeting in the secure conference room below the bridge. Representatives from every major nation on Earth appeared on the communication screens. The President of the Americas looked tired. The Premier of the Asian Alliance seemed angry. The African Federation leader appeared ready for war. Parker explained the situation in terms everyone could understand. The aliens had built a cage around Earth. They claimed it was for the good of the galaxy. They said humans were too dangerous to be allowed among the peaceful, civilized species. But Parker knew the real reason. The Council was terrified of what humans might become if they were allowed to grow. During the 3 years of negotiations, humans had learned a great deal about their alien neighbors. The Zephyrians were excellent scientists, but they had not invented anything new in over 200 years. The Corvani were fierce warriors, but they used the same weapons their ancestors had carried for centuries. The Threxians were master engineers, but they only built variations of ancient designs. Morrison returned to his station and pulled up the tactical display. The alien blockade consisted of over 400 ships from 12 different species. It looked impressive and overwhelming. But Morrison had spent his entire career studying military strategy. He could see the flaws in their formation. The aliens had positioned their ships like they were preparing for a parade rather than enforcing a blockade. The Council species had forgotten how to fight because they had not needed to fight for so long. They placed their ships in neat, orderly lines that would look good in propaganda broadcasts. But their formation had gaps that could be exploited. Their communication patterns were predictable. Their patrol routes followed rigid schedules that never changed. Dr. Patricia Stone worked in a hidden laboratory deep beneath the Pacific Ocean. Her team had been reverse engineering alien technology since the first day of contact. The Council had provided small samples of their science as gifts during the early negotiations. They thought these gifts would make humans grateful and compliant. Instead, Stone and her team had taken apart every device the aliens provided. They studied how each component worked. They learned the basic principles behind alien engineering. Most importantly, they discovered that alien technology was not as advanced as it first appeared. It was simply different. The aliens had developed their technology along different paths than humans. They focused on efficiency and reliability rather than power and adaptability. Their devices lasted for centuries without maintenance, but they could not be modified or improved. Human technology broke down more often, but it could be upgraded, combined with other devices, and used in ways the original designers never intended. Commander Ryan Bell monitored the alien communications from his station in the Intelligence Center. The Council species used a common language for official business, but they often spoke in their native tongues when they thought no one was listening. Bell had learned enough of these languages to understand what the aliens really thought about humans. They called humans the wild species. They spoke of humanity as if they were dangerous animals that needed to be contained. Some aliens wanted to destroy Earth completely to remove the threat. Others argued for patience, believing that humans would eventually submit to Council authority like every other species had done. But Bell noticed something interesting in the alien conversations. They were not unanimous in their decision to quarantine Earth. Several species had argued against the blockade. They pointed out that humans had never actually attacked any alien world. Human violence was directed at other humans, not at alien civilizations. The pro-quarantine faction had won the debate by highlighting human military capabilities. They showed recordings of human wars and weapons demonstrations. They emphasized how quickly human technology advanced compared to other species. They convinced the Council that humans would become a threat if they were allowed to spread across the galaxy. Morrison studied the files that Bell had compiled about each Council species. The Zephyrians were scientists and philosophers who valued knowledge above all else. The Corvani were proud warriors who respected strength but preferred straightforward combat. The Threxians were builders who created beautiful structures that lasted for millennia. All of these species had something in common. They had achieved peace by accepting limitations. They agreed to stop developing new weapons. They promised to avoid aggressive expansion. They submitted to Council oversight of their technology and exploration. In exchange, they received safety and stability. But humans were different. Morrison knew that his species had never accepted limitations willingly. Every time someone told humans they could not do something, they found a way to do it anyway. Every barrier became a challenge to overcome. Every restriction became a problem to solve. The aliens had made a critical mistake. They thought they could treat humans like every other species they had encountered. They believed that a show of overwhelming force would make humanity submit. They expected humans to accept the quarantine and slowly adapt to Council expectations over the following centuries. Instead, they had just given humanity the greatest challenge in their history. They had told an entire species of problem solvers that they were trapped. They had informed a planet full of warriors that they were under siege. They had declared to a civilization built on exploration and expansion that they could never leave their home system. Morrison smiled as he looked at the alien blockade. The Council thought they had solved their human problem. They believed they had contained a dangerous species before it could threaten galactic peace. But they had actually done something much more dangerous. They had given humans a reason to prove exactly why the galaxy should fear them. 3 months had passed since the alien blockade closed around Earth's solar system. Commander Ryan Bell floated in zero gravity as he examined the strange device his team had recovered from an abandoned alien probe. The probe had been damaged during the first week of the quarantine when it drifted too close to Earth's moon. The aliens had written it off as a total loss, but humans never threw anything away that might be useful. Bell's team worked in a secret facility built inside a hollowed-out asteroid between Mars and Jupiter. The location was perfect because the alien sensors could not detect human activity among all the natural radiation and metal deposits. Dr. Patricia Stone had insisted on building multiple hidden bases throughout the solar system during the early days of alien contact. At the time, many people thought she was being paranoid. Now everyone realized she had been brilliantly prepared. The recovered alien technology told an incredible story. Each device contained layers of engineering that revealed how different species had contributed to its design. The power core used Zephyrian energy principles that were over 5,000 years old. The navigation system relied on Corvani algorithms that had not been updated for 3 millennia. The communication array used Threxian protocols that were ancient when humans first discovered fire. Stone herself worked in the main laboratory complex hidden beneath the Pacific Ocean. Her teams had expanded dramatically since the quarantine began. Scientists from every nation had volunteered to join the secret project. Engineers who had spent their careers working on civilian applications now focused entirely on military research. The aliens had demanded that humans abandon their weapons, but they had never thought to stop human curiosity. The alien gifts from the early negotiations had provided the foundation for everything Stone's teams were learning. The Council species had been generous with their basic technology, sharing devices for communication, transportation, and manufacturing. They thought these gifts would demonstrate their superiority and make humans grateful for alien guidance. Instead, every gift became a puzzle for human engineers to solve. Professor Daniel Clark led the reverse engineering effort from a laboratory built inside Luna City. The moon's low gravity made it easier to work with large alien components, and the electromagnetic interference from Earth's magnetic field helped hide their activities from alien sensors. Clark had spent 40 years designing human spacecraft, but alien technology operated on completely different principles. Human ships used controlled explosions to generate thrust. Alien vessels manipulated gravity fields to move through space. Human weapons fired projectiles or energy beams. Alien weapons created distortions in space-time that could tear apart molecular bonds. Human computers used electricity flowing through silicon circuits. Alien computers used crystals that processed information at the quantum level. But Clark discovered something remarkable as his team studied each alien device. The principles behind alien technology were not actually more advanced than human science. They were just different. Humans had developed their technology through conflict and competition. Every invention had to work better than what came before, or it would be abandoned. Alien technology had evolved through cooperation and tradition. Once something worked well enough, it was never changed. Captain Rebecca Davis commanded the first human ship designed to use modified alien technology. The vessel looked like a standard Earth patrol craft from the outside, but every system had been rebuilt using hybrid human-alien principles. The ship could move faster than any human vessel had ever traveled. Its weapons could penetrate alien shields that were supposedly impenetrable. Most importantly, it was completely invisible to alien sensors. Davis had volunteered for the most dangerous mission in human history. She would take her ship beyond the alien blockade to gather intelligence about Council space. The mission was critical because humans needed to understand what they were really facing. The aliens had shared very little information about the size and scope of their civilization during the negotiations. Her ship slipped through the blockade on a moonless night when Earth was positioned between her location and the largest concentration of alien vessels. The hybrid propulsion system made no detectable emissions. The hull absorbed sensor beams rather than reflecting them. To alien observers, the ship simply did not exist. What Davis discovered during her reconnaissance mission changed everything. Humans thought they knew about the galaxy. The Council controlled thousands of star systems, but their civilization was dying. Every species had reached a plateau of development and stopped growing. Their populations were stable, but aging. Their Technology was reliable but obsolete. Their military was large but complacent. The Corvani Empire that humans had been told was the most feared military force in the galaxy had not fought a real war in over 800 years. Their soldiers trained constantly, but they had never faced an enemy who fought back with equal skill and determination. Their weapons were powerful but designed for intimidation rather than actual combat effectiveness. Engineer Carlos Rodriguez worked with a team of specialists who focused entirely on improving alien technology. Rodriguez had spent his career building systems that could function in the hostile environment of space where equipment failure meant death. He approached alien devices with the same mentality that had made human technology so robust and adaptable. The aliens built devices that would work perfectly for centuries without maintenance, but they could not be modified or repaired if something went wrong. Rodriguez learned to combine alien reliability with human adaptability. His hybrid systems could last as long as alien technology, but they could also be upgraded, customized, and repaired using standard human tools and techniques. The breakthrough came when Rodriguez figured out how to integrate alien quantum computers with human artificial intelligence systems. Alien computers were incredibly fast, but they could only process information according to predetermined patterns. Human AI was slower, but it could learn, adapt, and solve problems that had never been encountered before. The combination created something neither species had achieved alone: computers that could process vast amounts of information at quantum speeds while also developing creative solutions to complex problems. The hybrid systems could analyze alien technology faster than alien scientists and improve human designs, beyond anything humans had previously imagined. Dr. Sophie Martinez led the weapons development team from a facility hidden in Earth's asteroid belt. Martinez had studied alien combat footage from their historical archives during the early negotiations. She noticed that alien warfare followed strict patterns that had not changed for thousands of years. Each species had developed their military doctrine during their early violent period and then preserved it unchanged when they joined the Council. Human military thinking had never stopped evolving. Every war taught new lessons that changed how the next conflict would be fought. Human weapons were designed to be unpredictable and adaptable because human enemies were also unpredictable and adaptable. Alien weapons were designed to overwhelm traditional defenses because alien enemies always use traditional defenses. Martinez realized that alien military technology had a fundamental weakness. It was optimized to fight other aliens who would respond in predictable ways. No alien species had ever developed weapons to fight humans because no alien species had ever fought humans. Their shields could stop alien energy weapons, but they had never been tested against human projectile weapons. Their armor could deflect alien plasma, but it might not resist human explosives. The secret human facilities throughout the solar system worked together as a single massive research project. Information flowed freely between all the teams. Discoveries made in one location were immediately shared with every other facility. Human competitive instincts that the aliens found so troubling became humanity's greatest advantage in understanding and improving alien technology. Commander Alex Turner received the final intelligence reports from Davis's reconnaissance mission. The data painted a clear picture of the galaxy beyond Earth's solar system. The Council controlled vast territories, but their grip was weakening. Dozens of species were growing restless under Council authority. Several worlds had requested permission to develop new technology and been denied. Some systems had begun conducting unauthorized research projects in violation of Council law. Turner realized that the galaxy was ready for change. The Council's rigid system had maintained peace, but it had also prevented progress. Entire civilizations were stagnating under rules designed to prevent conflict. Species that had once been innovative and dynamic had become passive and dependent on Council guidance. The aliens thought they had solved their human problem by imposing a quarantine. They believed they had contained a dangerous species before it could disrupt galactic stability, but they had actually created the catalyst that would transform their entire civilization. Humans had been given the time, motivation, and challenge. They needed to develop capabilities that would reshape the galaxy forever. 6 months after the quarantine began, Captain Laura Mitchell watched the colony ship New Horizon prepare for its departure from Earth orbit. The massive vessel carried 12,000 civilians who had volunteered to establish humanity's first settlement beyond the solar system. Families with children, elderly people seeking adventure, scientists eager to study alien worlds, and farmers hoping to grow crops under foreign suns all waited in the ship's passenger compartments. Mitchell commanded the escort squadron assigned to protect the colony ship during its journey. Her orders were simple but almost impossible to follow. Get the New Horizon safely through the alien blockade and escort it to the Kepler system where humans had identified a suitable planet for colonization. The mission would test every advancement human engineers had made during the months of secret research. The New Horizon itself represented the best of human engineering combined with alien technology. Its hull was built using traditional human materials, but shaped according to alien principles that reduced sensor detection. The propulsion system used hybrid technology that could outrun any known alien vessel. The life support systems could sustain the colonists for years, even if they never reached their destination. Admiral Frank Cooper monitored the mission from Earth's command center. Cooper had argued against allowing the colony ship to attempt the journey. He believed humans should wait until they had developed more advanced weapons before challenging the alien blockade. But the civilian government had overruled his objections. They insisted that humans had the right to leave their home system, regardless of alien threats. The New Horizon began its journey during Earth's night cycle, when the majority of alien surveillance was focused on the day side of the planet. Mitchell's escort ships used their stealth capabilities to remain invisible, while the colony ship followed a carefully planned route that avoided the heaviest concentrations of alien vessels. For the first few hours, everything proceeded according to plan. The Corvani patrol fleet detected the New Horizon when it was halfway to the edge of the solar system. Commander Zektar had been monitoring human activity for months without seeing anything unusual. The sudden appearance of a large human vessel attempting to leave the quarantine zone triggered immediate alarm throughout the alien command structure. Zektar requested instructions from his superiors, but the response was delayed by the bureaucratic processes that governed all Council military actions. Dr. Kevin Walsh tracked the developing situation from his position in the Earth Defense Command Center. Walsh had predicted that the aliens would eventually face a choice between maintaining their peaceful image and enforcing their quarantine through violence. He hoped the Council would choose to negotiate rather than attack a ship full of civilians. But Walsh understood that the aliens felt threatened by human unpredictability and might react with fear rather than wisdom. The Corvani fleet moved to intercept the New Horizon, while their commanders debated the proper response. The alien captains had been ordered to prevent any human vessel from leaving the solar system, but they had not been given specific instructions about what force was authorized. The Council's rules of engagement were designed for conflicts between civilized species who understood and followed galactic law. They did not account for situations involving species that rejected Council authority entirely. Captain Rebecca Davis monitored the alien communications from her hidden reconnaissance ship. Davis had been tracking Council military movements for weeks, and she knew the Corvani commanders were confused by the situation. Their military doctrine assumed that any species would surrender when faced with overwhelming force. The idea that humans might continue fighting even when outnumbered had never been considered by alien strategists. The New Horizon continued on its planned course, even when the Corvani ships moved to block its path. Captain Julia Roberts commanded the colony ship, and she had strict orders not to deviate from her mission unless directly attacked. Roberts believed the aliens were bluffing because attacking a civilian vessel would violate every principle the Council claimed to represent. She trusted that even aggressive species like the Corvani would not fire on families and children. Commander Zektar finally received his orders from the Corvani High Command. The message was brief and absolute. No human vessel could be allowed. to leave the quarantine zone under any circumstances. The use of lethal force was authorized if humans refused to comply with council authority. Zektar acknowledged the orders, but he felt uncomfortable about attacking what appeared to be a peaceful civilian transport. Mitchell's escort squadron remained hidden as the Corvani fleet surrounded the New Horizon. Her ships were equipped with the most advanced weapons human scientists had developed, but she was outnumbered 20-1. Mitchell knew she could not defeat the entire alien force, but she might be able to protect the colony ship long enough for it to escape to hyperspace. She waited for Roberts to make the final decision about whether to fight or surrender. The confrontation reached its critical moment when Zektar transmitted an ultimatum to the New Horizon. The human vessel had 30 seconds to reverse course and return to Earth orbit, or the Corvani fleet would open fire. Roberts considered her options carefully. She could surrender and save the lives of everyone aboard her ship, but that would mean accepting that humans could never leave their solar system. She could continue forward and hope the aliens were bluffing, but that might result in the deaths of 12,000 innocent people. Roberts made her choice based on a principle that defined human civilization. No one had the right to imprison an entire species. The New Horizon continued toward the edge of the solar system while Roberts transmitted a message that would be remembered throughout human history. She announced that her ship carried families, seeking a new home among the stars, and no alien government had the authority to deny them that right. The Corvani opened fire without further warning. Their plasma cannons struck the New Horizon's shields with enough force to destroy a mountain. The colony ship's defenses held for several seconds before failing completely. The second volley of alien fire tore through the hull and detonated the main power core. The explosion was visible from Earth as a brief new star that appeared and vanished in the darkness of space. General Nathan Hughes received the report of the New Horizon's destruction while he was meeting with Earth's military commanders. Hughes had spent his entire career preparing for the possibility of alien invasion, but he had never imagined that first contact would result in the murder of human civilians. The general stood quietly for several minutes as he processed the implications of what had just happened. Dr. Sophie Martinez was in her laboratory working on weapons development when the news reached her facility. Martinez had been designing defensive systems intended to protect human ships from alien attack. The destruction of the New Horizon changed her priorities completely. Defense was no longer enough. Humans needed weapons that could make the aliens pay a terrible price for their aggression. Engineer Carlos Rodriguez watched the recordings of the attack with cold anger. Rodriguez had helped design the New Horizon's defensive systems, and he knew they should have been strong enough to withstand alien weapons. But the Corvani had used concentrated fire from multiple ships to overwhelm the colony vessel's shields. The attack was not just murder but calculated overkill, designed to send a message to humanity. The alien blockade commanders celebrated their successful enforcement of the quarantine. They believed they had demonstrated council resolve and shown humans the consequences of defying galactic authority. The destruction of one human ship would surely convince the rest of humanity to accept their isolation and abandon any thoughts of expansion beyond their solar system, but the aliens had made a catastrophic miscalculation. They had treated the attack on the New Horizon as a simple law enforcement action. They had killed human civilians as if they were destroying a malfunctioning probe or clearing debris from a shipping lane. They had demonstrated exactly the kind of callous disregard for human life that would unite every person on Earth behind a single purpose. Commander Alex Turner received new orders that reflected humanity's changed priorities. The secret weapons. Development projects would be accelerated regardless of cost or risk. Every available resource would be dedicated to military research. The time for peaceful solutions had ended when the aliens chose to murder families rather than allow them to seek new homes among the stars. Admiral Lisa Brooks addressed the emergency session of Earth's unified government with words that would define humanity's response to alien aggression. She announced that the quarantine was now officially considered an act of war. The destruction of the New Horizon would be answered with force that would teach the galaxy exactly why it was dangerous to threaten human civilians. The Council species had spent centuries building a civilization based on the principle that overwhelming force could prevent conflict. They believed that any species would submit when faced with superior military power. But they had never encountered a species that responded to threats by becoming more dangerous rather than more compliant. Hughes began planning humanity's response to the alien attack. The operation would be called Breakout, and it would demonstrate. Operation Breakout began at exactly 3 a.m. Earth Standard Time, when every human facility in the solar system received the same simple message. The storm breaks now. Captain Victoria Shaw read the message on her command screen and immediately ordered her squadron to launch from their hidden base in the asteroid belt. Shaw commanded 12 ships that looked like ordinary human patrol vessels, but carried weapons that no alien species had ever encountered. The first wave of human ships moved through space using propulsion systems that generated no detectable emissions. The alien sensors that had monitored the solar system for 6 months registered nothing unusual. The Corvani patrol fleets continued their routine patrols, while Zephyrian science vessels maintained their observation posts. None of the Council species realized that death was approaching them through the darkness between worlds. Shaw's primary target was the Corvani command ship that coordinated the entire blockade. The massive vessel carried Admiral Keth Moore, who had personally ordered the destruction of the New Horizon. Human intelligence had identified Keth Moore as the architect of the Council's most aggressive policies toward Earth. His death would send a clear message that murdering human civilians carried a terrible price. The human attack ships closed to within weapons range without being detected. Shaw could see the alien command vessel on her tactical display. The ship was enormous compared to human vessels, but Shaw knew that size meant nothing if the enemy could not fight back effectively. Human weapons had been designed specifically to penetrate alien defenses that had never been tested against human ingenuity. Shaw ordered her ships to fire at exactly the same moment. 12 streams of accelerated particles struck the Corvani command ship from different angles. The alien shields flared and collapsed within seconds. The particles passed through the hull as if it were made of paper and detonated the ship's power core from the inside. Admiral Keth Moore died without understanding what had killed him. The destruction of the command ship created chaos throughout the alien blockade. The Corvani fleet had relied entirely on centralized command and control. Without their admiral's orders, the individual ship captains had no idea how to respond to an attack they could not see or understand. Some ships began firing randomly into space, while others activated emergency protocols that made them easier targets for human weapons. Admiral Greg Harrison commanded the second wave of human ships that targeted the Council's communication networks. Harrison had studied alien technology for months, and he knew exactly how to cripple their ability to coordinate a response. The aliens used quantum communication arrays that connected every ship and base throughout Council space. The technology was incredibly advanced, but it had one critical weakness. The alien communication system had been designed by species that trusted each other completely. There were no security protocols to prevent unauthorized access. No encryption to protect sensitive information, no safeguards against hostile intrusion. The aliens had built their entire civilization on the assumption that no one would ever attack their infrastructure because everyone in the galaxy followed Council law. Human cyber warfare specialists had spent months preparing for this moment. They had studied every aspect of alien communication technology and developed viruses specifically designed to destroy quantum networks. The moment Harrison's ships came within range of the alien arrays, they uploaded terabytes of malicious code that spread through Council space at the speed of light. Within minutes, the entire galactic communication network collapsed. Species that had been in constant contact for thousands of years suddenly found themselves isolated and alone. Emergency protocols activated automatically, but they had not been updated for centuries and failed to function properly. The Council's galaxy-spanning civilization became deaf and blind in less time than it took for a human heart to beat 10 times. The Zephyrian science fleet tried to retreat when they realized they were under attack. The blue-skinned aliens prided themselves on their advanced technology and superior intellect, but they had never developed effective military capabilities. Their ships were designed for exploration and research rather than combat. When human attack ships appeared around them, the Zephyrian captains surrendered immediately. Captain Mark Wilson accepted the alien surrender, but he had strict orders about how to treat Council species that had supported the quarantine. The Zephyrians would be allowed to live, but their ships would be captured, and their technology would be studied. Human scientists were particularly interested in Zephyrian quantum computers and energy manipulation systems. The Threxian engineering Corps attempted to establish defensive positions using their advanced construction capabilities. The insect-like aliens were master builders who could create fortifications in space using materials they carried in their ships. But human weapons had been designed to destroy any target regardless of how well it was protected. The Threxian defenses lasted less than an hour before human plasma torpedoes reduced them to glowing debris. Commander Rachel Stone led a specialized task force that targeted the Council's automated defense platforms scattered throughout the solar system. The platforms were designed to detect and destroy any vessel that approached Earth without authorization. But the alien designers had programmed them to recognize specific energy signatures and weapon types. Human ships using hybrid technology were completely invisible to the automated systems. Stone's ships approached each platform using stealth technology that made them undetectable to alien sensors. When they were close enough to guarantee a kill shot, Stone ordered her weapons officers to fire. The human plasma cannons used frequencies that could phase through alien shield generators. The defense platforms exploded one by one without ever detecting the ships that destroyed them. The Corvani warfleet represented the most dangerous threat to human operations. The warrior species had over 200 ships in the solar system, and their captains were experienced combat veterans. But the Corvani had spent centuries fighting enemies who used predictable tactics and traditional weapons. They had never faced opponents who could appear from nowhere and strike with weapons that ignored conventional defenses. Captain Ben Rodriguez commanded the human squadron assigned to destroy the Corvani fleet. Rodriguez had studied recordings of Corvani combat tactics, and he knew exactly how the aliens would respond to attack. They would form a defensive formation and try to use their superior numbers to overwhelm human ships through concentrated fire. But Rodriguez had prepared a surprise that would turn the aliens' greatest strength into a fatal weakness. Human ships appeared throughout the Corvani formation using short-range teleportation technology that the aliens did not know existed. Each human vessel materialized inside the defensive perimeter, where Corvani weapons could not target them without hitting their own ships. The aliens found themselves trapped in a formation that had become a death trap. Rodriguez ordered his ships to fire at point-blank range into the Corvani vessels. Human weapons tore through alien hulls and detonated power cores with devastating efficiency. The Corvani fleet that had terrorized dozens of species for centuries was destroyed in less than 40 minutes. The few surviving ships fled toward the edge of the solar system while broadcasting surrender messages that no one answered. Dr. Patricia Stone monitored the battle from her command center beneath Earth's Pacific Ocean. Stone had coordinated the development of every weapon system the human fleet was using. She watched her creations perform exactly as designed, while alien ships exploded across the tactical displays. But Stone felt no satisfaction from the destruction. She knew this was only the beginning of a war that would reshape the entire galaxy. The alien blockade that had seemed so powerful and intimidating 6 months earlier was completely destroyed within 12 hours. Human ships patrolled the solar system while alien survivors huddled in damaged vessels and begged for mercy. The council species that had imposed the quarantine discovered that humans responded to imprisonment by becoming more dangerous rather than more compliant. Admiral Lisa Brooks received reports from every human commander involved in the operation. The breakout had succeeded beyond anyone's expectations. Not a single human ship had been lost while the entire alien blockade was either destroyed or captured. But Brooks knew the real war was just beginning. The Council would respond to this defeat by sending larger fleets with more advanced weapons. Commander Alex Turner prepared for the next phase of human operations. Breakout had proven that humans could fight the Council species and win. But victory in one battle did not guarantee victory in a war against enemies who controlled thousands of star systems. Turner began planning operations that would carry human ships deep into Council space, where they would face challenges that would test every advancement human science had achieved. The aliens had made a fundamental error when they decided to quarantine humanity. They had assumed that humans would react like every other species they had encountered. They expected submission and compliance rather than innovation and aggression. The Council had pulled the trigger on themselves when they chose to treat humans as prisoners rather than equals. 6 months after the blockade collapsed, Captain Matthew Davis stood on the bridge of the human starship Liberty as it entered orbit around the former Council homeworld of Nexus Prime. The massive planet had been the center of galactic civilization for over 10,000 years, but now it looked like any other world waiting for new management. Human ships filled the orbital space around the planet, while alien vessels sat powerless and defeated in designated holding areas. Davis had been present during the final battle for Nexus Prime 3 weeks earlier. The Council's last military forces had made their stand in the system that represented everything their civilization had achieved. But the battle lasted only 6 hours before the remaining alien commanders surrendered unconditionally. Human weapons technology had advanced so far beyond alien capabilities that the outcome was never in doubt. The human fleet had grown enormously since the first breakthrough from Earth's solar system. Shipyards throughout human space worked constantly to build new vessels using hybrid technology that combined the best of human and alien engineering. Each ship was faster, stronger, and more heavily armed than anything the Council species had ever imagined possible. Dr. Helen Foster worked in her new laboratory complex on Nexus Prime's largest moon. Foster led the Human Galactic Research Exchange that had been established to help alien species develop new technology for the first time in centuries. The facility buzzed with activity as scientists from dozens of worlds collaborated on projects that had been forbidden under Council law. The former Council leadership sat in detention facilities waiting for their trials to begin. These aliens had ruled the galaxy through fear and control for thousands of years, but now they faced judgment for their crimes against dozens of species. The destruction of the New Horizon had been only one example of Council brutality. Human investigators had discovered evidence of systematic oppression that had stunted the development of entire civilizations. Ambassador Julia Phillips walked through the halls of the former Council chambers where representatives from over 200 species now gathered to plan their future. Phillips had been appointed as Earth's first ambassador to the Galactic Alliance that was being formed to replace the old Council system. The new government would operate on principles of cooperation and innovation rather than control and stagnation. The transformation of galactic civilization had happened faster than anyone thought possible. Species that had been suppressed for millennia suddenly found themselves free to pursue new ideas and technologies. The Zephyrians had resumed scientific research and made breakthrough discoveries within weeks. The Threxians had begun designing revolutionary new construction techniques. Even the Corvani had started developing advanced weapons that would have been impossible under Council restrictions. Captain Rebecca Davis commanded the Human Task Force, responsible for liberating worlds that had been under Council occupation. Her ships traveled from system to system, offering freedom to species that had never imagined they could govern themselves. Most alien populations welcomed human intervention because it meant an end to the rigid controls that had dominated their lives for centuries. The liberation campaigns revealed the true scope of Council oppression. Entire species had been forced to abandon promising research because it might lead to military applications. Worlds with valuable resources had been stripped bare to support Council projects while their populations lived in poverty. Alien scientists had been executed for asking questions that the Council considered dangerous. Engineer Carlos Rodriguez supervised the construction of new shipyards throughout the former Council space. Rodriguez had designed modular facilities that could be built quickly using local materials and labor. The shipyards would allow liberated species to build their own vessels using human technology modified for their specific needs and capabilities. The speed of human expansion amazed even the humans themselves. What had taken the Council thousands of years to build, human forces had conquered in less than 1 year. But the conquest was different from anything the galaxy had ever seen before. Humans came as liberators rather than conquerors, offering partnership rather than submission. President Chris Johnson addressed the new Galactic Alliance from the rebuilt Council chambers on Nexus Prime. Johnson's speech was broadcast to every inhabited world in known space as he outlined the principles that would guide the new civilization. Freedom of research and development would be guaranteed. Species would govern themselves according to their own customs and values. Military technology would be shared to ensure that no single group could dominate others through force. The former Council species struggled to adapt to their new reality. They had spent so long following orders and avoiding innovation that many individuals did not know how to function in a free society. Human advisors worked patiently with alien populations to help them develop the skills and confidence needed for self-governance. Dr. Sophie Martinez established training centers throughout liberated space where alien scientists could learn human research methods. Martinez had discovered that most Council species possessed tremendous intellectual potential that had been suppressed by centuries of authoritarian rule. When given the opportunity to pursue their own interests, alien researchers made remarkable progress in very short periods. The Corvani warrior culture adapted most easily to the new system because human military values emphasized innovation and individual initiative. Former Corvani soldiers became some of the most effective peacekeepers in the new alliance because they understood both the old system's weaknesses and the new system's strengths. General Nathan Hughes coordinated the massive logistical effort required to maintain order across thousands of liberated worlds. Hughes had expected that removing Council authority would lead to chaos and conflict, but the opposite had occurred. Most species were so grateful for their freedom that they worked harder than ever to build better societies. The trials of former Council leaders proceeded carefully according to legal principles that combined human justice concepts with alien legal traditions. The defendants were allowed to present their own defense, but the evidence against them was overwhelming. Many Council officials had genuinely believed they were maintaining peace and stability, but their methods had caused immense suffering throughout the galaxy. Admiral Lisa Brooks commanded the human fleet that patrolled the borders of Alliance space. Brooks' ships watched for threats from unknown regions of the galaxy where hostile species might exist beyond the former Council territories. But the greatest danger to the new civilization came from within, as some alien populations struggled with the concept of personal responsibility and freedom. The economic transformation of galactic civilization happened as quickly as the political changes. Species that had been forced to follow Council economic policies suddenly found themselves free to trade and innovate. New technologies developed. Inhuman-alien research partnerships created opportunities that benefited everyone involved. Commander Alex Turner established the Alliance Military Academy, where officers from all member species learned to work together using tactics that combined the best elements of human and alien military traditions. Turner had realized that the new civilization would need defenders who understood both human adaptability and alien capabilities. The Council's prediction that human expansion would lead to galactic war had proven completely wrong. Human leadership had brought more peace and prosperity to the galaxy in 1 year than the Council had achieved in 10,000 years. The difference was that humans offered partnership and growth rather than control and stagnation. Captain Victoria Shaw commanded the exploration fleets that pushed into unexplored regions of the galaxy. Shaw's ships carried mixed crews of humans and aliens working together to discover new worlds and make contact with unknown species. The voyages represented everything the new alliance stood for: cooperation, discovery, and unlimited potential for growth. The former Council homeworld of Nexus Prime had become a symbol of transformation. The planet that had once been the center of galactic oppression was now the heart of a civilization based on freedom and innovation. Human and alien children played together in parks while their parents worked on projects that would have been impossible under the old system. The quarantine that was meant to contain humanity had instead become the catalyst for galactic revolution. The Council had tried to prevent human expansion by building a cage around Earth, but they had only given humans the motivation and time. They needed to develop capabilities that would reshape the entire galaxy. In trying to pull the trigger on humanity, the Council had destroyed themselves and created something far better than anything that had existed before.